Welcome. Beautiful day to be sat inside. Shows the commitment and hard work of governors, so really delighted to have you here today. I'm Jonathan Lewis, I'm Service Director for Education for Cambridgeshire and Peterborough local authorities. And welcome to our second annual Governors Conference. Really important day, we've got some fantastic speakers lined up. We're going to go quite quick through today, lots and lots of people giving lots of different views. It's your chance to mix, talk to other governors, ask conversations, have chats with people about what's on in your school, what the challenges are. That's what we want to get out of today. It's really that dialogue that you have around your school and the challenges that we all face. So, in terms of logistics for today, if you haven't found them already, tea and coffee is out through the rooms there. Toilets are out and to the right, down the corridor. We're not planning a fire alarm. If you do, I'm going that way, so follow me. And we'll see you off the premises. So, hope you enjoy today. I'm going to start off. I've got 20 minutes. Those of you that know me know that I speak incredibly quickly, and I'm going to do 35 slides in 20 minutes, so bear with me as we go through. But I wanted to give you a good flavour of what's going on. Don't read the slides. I'm not going to cover everything. You can take them away. We will make available all the slides. You can read them afterwards. If you look at mine, you'll see there's some more narrative that I haven't included in today. But I just wanted to give you a flavour and oversight of where we were in Peterborough at the moment and some of the challenges that we face. So I've survived the year. As you remember last time, I'm still here. It's been a bit like that sometimes, and we're getting there. That's where we're going. I've managed to do about a third of the schools in Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. So there's 325. I've done over 100 schools in a year, so I'm getting out and want to find out what's going on the grounds. The benefit I have in Peterborough is I've been to all of your schools, so I have been there in the past. So what I'm going to cover today is something around the role of the local authority, some of the focus that we have, the work that we've got going on, and I just want to cover some of the challenges that we face, because I think you're facing them as much as I'm facing them. So I just wanted to give you an oversight and view of where we are. So, where we are in Peterborough, vision and oversight. I shared this slide last time. This is what I've been hanging on to for the last year about what we're here to do and the work that needs to happen. And you hopefully are reflecting this in schools. That challenge about being the very best. That's what we need to do. Set our expectations high. Let's be better than Newham. And I'm going to talk about Newham again later. And having worked with them now, there's no reason why we can't be better than Newham. Sorry. But actually, that's what we're here to do. High expectations, highest way of working. We're trying to deliver that. Because actually, our children deserve great schools and a great education offer. And that's what we're working really hard to do. But having outside influences, we've got Ofsted, we've got a speaker today that's coming to talk to us about what's going on elsewhere. High aspirations, knowing what's great, going out there, pinching it, not afraid to magpie things from other places. It's really important that our drive for improvement continues in Peterborough, because that's what we need to do. But given the context, given this mess of an education system that we're all trying to work in, actually partnerships are more important. And that's where when I looked at the list today and saw the mix of people that are here, the schools you represent, we have every type of school covered. Shows how important partnership is in the work we're doing. And I want to keep stressing that throughout the work we do going forward. So, other things you've seen, I've talked these through in the past. The one I'm going to add at the end, and this is the one I have added to my original vision when I started, is around SEND being everyone's business. It is the biggest challenge we are facing in the education system, about the challenge, the raising level of needs, the financial pressures, and actually the children who are SEND deserve our support. So actually being really focused on making sure SEND is everyone's business is key to the vision that hopefully you picked up and we're closely working with. So as a local authority, it's quite challenging for us at the moment. We have the third lowest education budget in the country. And when we're trying to improve our local authority and drive it forward, that's really challenging. But that's not a reason not to succeed. It's not a reason why we can't work really hard and make a difference going forward. Because actually, we have a role to play. And our role is one where we don't have that oversight that we used to have, but actually we can work together with people to make a difference. And that means moving at pace, it means trying things that we haven't done before, maybe not getting everything right, but actually the drive and determination is what hopefully the local authority here is here to do. And it remains one of our top priorities. The council's priorities, it's the second one of the 5 that we have, is educational outcomes, because they're so important to the work we're doing. So I've been making quite a lot of changes. We have a new structure in the local authority. We've appointed new assistant directors that cover both local authorities, Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. And we've done this to help us give us capacity, because we haven't had capacity, because Peterborough is relatively small. We're working with Cambridgeshire. It's starting to make a difference. And I'm delighted to say, I can't give you a name yet, but we have appointed a new assistant director for SEND, which is key, really key area. Very highly experienced practitioner and professional, who will be starting with us in September. So I'm hoping you'll see different change, different momentum that sits behind some of the challenges we face, hope in the next few weeks we'll be able to appoint a new Assistant Director for School Improvement as well. So again, another key focus of the work we're doing and some of the changes that we're making in the local authority. We have made some changes in governor services. We've brought the two teams together. We have more capacity now than we've ever had, and the reason we've done that is I want to put more capacity into working with you, rather than necessarily producing information and holding training. Actually, I want my governor services team to be in your schools, working with governors, helping you look at your practice, what you're doing, sharing experiences, and making sure that what you do hits the mark and makes a difference, because governance drives good leadership. And we need to keep that focus going. So we've merged them together. We've got people working across both areas. You've met Lynn on the way in, who leads for Peterborough and the Fenland area. You will see more capacity coming out from us from September about the way we work. But the other thing we're doing from this September is that we are going to allocate to every school in Peterborough a link officer role. So there is somebody in the local authority, a senior leader, whose role is to form a bridge, make sure we don't miss you, we know who you are, what you're doing, be able to deal with some of these issues around head teacher wellbeing, massive issue. What role can somebody play? And just phoning up and saying, are you okay, what can I help with? Trying to break down some of those barriers, understanding what good practice is going on. We want to rebuild a bridge with all our schools, regardless of status, to make sure that the local authority knows its schools well, and can play an active role in driving forward your improvement and working with you. So in the early autumn, you will be getting a letter from me who will be advising you who your advisor role is, that link advisor role, and they will be your conduit to the local authority. So if you need to find out where to go to get this or who to work with, that's their role. So that's what we're here to do. So that's going to be coming on in September. I talked about partnerships. I've also talked about the really challenging context in which we're working in. This was the 1990s, straightforward education system then, top down from the central government, local government into schools. This is kind of what we're now working with. You don't even need to read the information on there. It's complicated, hugely complicated and hugely challenging. And that's not good for children, in my view. So actually what we're trying to do as a local authority, and I like this term, we are the glue in the system to try and bring together all those various parts. Over half our schools in Peterborough are now in academy trusts. So what? Doesn't matter. Let's bring people together and start working effectively to drive improvement, because that's what our role is here to do. And key to that is the school-led system. There is so much talent and ability in Peterborough. Put aside whatever the PT might report, about what's going on. Actually, there is some brilliant practice. It gets missed sometimes in headlines around league tables. It's fantastic. But how do we use that talent and ability? How do we share it? How do we work together to drive things forward? And at the heart of that is our teaching schools. And we have two fantastic teaching schools in Peterborough that are doing an amazing job. How we use them to drive things forward is going to be really, really key. And that's been part of our plan for this year about exploiting the capacity that they bring going forward. And I think what we need to do is think again, commissioning support is the way to go. Who is doing the best practice that we can work with and share to drive things forward? So from our perspective, that building a partnership is absolutely key with the work that we need to do. Told you I was going quick. Focus for us for the upcoming academic year is here, and it covers a lot of what I've already said. We will be doing a different offer to our maintained schools about school improvement. So we're meeting with heads in the coming weeks to talk about how it's going to be different. We need to think about our challenge role. There is, variability in terms of performance. How are we challenging that? What's our role going to be with that going forward? Obviously, you're going to hear from Jason today about the new Ofsted framework. How do we support schools through that? We've done lots of training with them already, which we hope will make a difference. Our challenge around school-placed planning continues. This fantastic new school that's filling rapidly. We need another 2 secondary schools coming up. How are we going to deal with that? I also think there's work around post-16. We've got all these extra children in our school system. Where are they going to go for sixth form? Where are they going to go to college? It's a big thing that we're going to have to be working on. But actually, working with school leaders is really key. The next few slides around what primary heads are leading on and what secondary heads are leading on will lead us through some of those areas going forward. But actually, the focus has to be working together and sharing the capacity and expertise that we have in our schools. So the next couple of slides really give you a flavour of what school leaders are saying needs to be delivered. And I'm giving you this very high level because there's lots more information behind this. But for primaries, developing a structure to deliver improvement is one thing they've been focused on. Leadership and governance for them is really, really key. So lots of actions here about working with new head teachers, finding aspiring leaders that can support us, getting new, more high-quality governors in. All the areas that we have been focusing on, the schools are telling us the same thing. We need to work together to share those expertise and improvement. Curriculum is really key. We have a diverse community. Our curriculum is probably more important than most, because actually we have to engage different people in different roles. And lots of work is going on, lots of thought has gone into, well, how do we exploit that? How can we share and work together with each other? How do we challenge each other again about what we're doing? It's been a really, really key focus. And obviously at the heart of that is staff, and recruitment and retention remains a challenge nationally, more of a challenge locally in Peterborough because of some of the concepts we're working in. But actually what they've identified is our staff working with the teaching school, we need to be more focused on areas such as getting greater depth for our young children and young people, focus on SEND and how we use system leaders, local leaders in education, national leaders in education. They are really key to our improvement journey. Secondaries, again, early days working through their model. If you start to look at what secondaries are identifying, it's a very similar pattern to what's needed. So good governance, keeping our senior leaders in post. The escalation of people through structures now is quicker than it's ever been. A head teacher, by the time you get to late 20s, shows that we have to support these leaders for them to be successful. Over half our secondary heads have now been enrolled less than 6 months. That's a big change. And how do we cope with that? And how do we support them going forward? And the role of middle leaders is really important. But equally, they've identified the vulnerable peoples we've got. Those children just about managing, often forgotten. Those ones just above that threshold for pupil premium. What are we doing with that group? How do we support them? And can we put together a programme to make sure they're not missed when we come to look at how we improve and the drive we have going forward? I think austerity has been huge for us. I think that the lack of preventative services, the lack of early intervention, because of austerity nationally, is causing us lots and lots of challenges. And actually, what we've asked schools to do, or what schools have naturally done, is fill some of those gaps. And that's really challenging for them when they're trying to drive improvement, try and improve the quality of teaching and learning. To deal with some of those issues around families, communities is really, really challenging. So we've had to think hard about that. And these are the thoughts that the secondary heads are working on. Recruitment and retention, again, comes up as a theme. How are we driving it forward? We've just invested in our Teach Peterborough website again. That should hopefully make a difference. But a lot more to do about how we develop there. And again, curriculum comes out. The EBAC is going to be a massive challenge. How do we get students engaged with particularly modern foreign languages or the humanities subjects? We need to think about who's good at supporting those areas, developing our teachers. We can't get lots of first language teachers in those subjects. So how are we going to continue to drive improvement when we have gaps in what we deliver? But I share those because I think it's important you see there is a lot going on in Peterborough, a lot that's happening to really drive this improvement that we hope will bring us up from the bottom of the league tables and make that sustainable difference that Peterborough deserves in terms of the work we're doing. Now, I put phonics in here just because it's such a key area, and I've got to meet this guy 3 times this year, so does everyone know who this is? It's Nick Gibb. He's the schools minister for phonics. And I've got some really rude jokes that I'm not going to use. I have been head teachers, but I'll get in trouble if I do here. I did like, though, in the phonics material, I know now where they model the phonics material on, because they're intrinsically linked the two, I think. So we obviously modelled in phonics. I put phonics up because it's really important for us, because one of our challenges, if you look across our school system, is what happens with our English and our reading outcomes. So being challenging, Newham's doing very well. Peterborough, much more challenged in this area, right at the bottom of the league table. We have to improve phonics, and we've done a huge amount about it. But the reason we push this a lot, and we can have a long conversation about is phonics the right way to teach reading or not, but actually what we do have is data that shows us that those children that don't achieve the phonics check and get the expected standard have a significantly less chance of then getting reading at the end of Key Stage 2. So in these figures here that just come out, we've got the first cohort that's been through phonics screening. Only 53% of children achieved the expected standard in reading that didn't achieve the phonics standard when they were in year 1, compared to 84% that did. So there's a big gap. So if we don't get phonics right or access to reading right, it does affect children going forward. Hence why we've done lots and lots around phonics in terms of the work we're doing. And these are just some of the things that have been worked on this year. Again, we've been working with Newham, they're top of the league table, we're at the bottom. But actually, when you start to look at it, their leadership of phonics is what's made a difference. And actually, we've learned from that, and we're starting to work much harder in our schools through some of the conferences we've run and some of the events to make sure that leadership of phonics is key in terms of the way we work. Because ultimately, what we want, is that we want children that can and want to read. They should foster a love of reading through the work they do, and we need to make sure that isn't lost with the pursuit of phonics, but phonics is a really good tool to support children to read. So it's really, really key. What we don't want is children that are disengaged completely from reading, and that's really the key focus for us. I mentioned SEND, real big challenges, some scary charts here about the pressures that you are facing in schools at the moment. More and more children over time are accessing the SEND system and needing more and more support. Comments from the government, there isn't enough money. They finally acknowledge that there isn't enough money and resources going into SEND, because we have seen a huge proportional increase in numbers coming through. Interestingly, they're blaming mainstream schools' behaviour and accountability system for SEND being a challenge, when it's their accountability system that they're blaming, and they can change that, but they haven't. So I think there's real challenges coming around the way we work with SEND. There is a shortage of special school places in Peterborough. We're quite well served. We have more proportionally than other places going forward. Our big challenge that we are facing as a system is the third bullet point there, around those children with education, health and care plans. We are seeing more and more age 19 needing support, and that was not funded fully when the DfE set up the new legislation to drive this forward. Our context is also around population increases, parental preferences. It's a real challenge for you. We have to be inclusive. Children deserve to stay locally. We have to support them. But you are the ones facing the challenge as a result of that aspiration, and we need to make sure that we recognise that's the case going forward. We've done a huge amount of work on this. We have done a new SEND strategy, a new action plan that will be out shortly to you. It's really key you engage with that. We have more than 3/4 of the schools in the city have engaged with our SEND audit toolkit based on one of the London models that we picked up, and it's been very effective to show that if SEND is part of the leadership of a school, it makes a difference in terms of outcomes. So we're doing lots of work on that going forward. Lots of conferences, lots of events going forward, and we've also looked at our specialist SEND hubs, that specialist support for children with particular needs, making sure that it's moved from being necessarily in school to being more of an out-school support type function. So we're working in other schools, supporting children to stay in their local communities, but giving schools the support they need for those children to flourish and have good outcomes. The last of my woes is around funding generally, because it is a big challenge for us in terms of funding. Nationally, massive issues around demographics, huge uplift in terms of the overall funding that has not kept pace with the challenge of increased pupil numbers and the challenges that we have, particularly around austerity. And it's starting to be a national issue. And thank you that we had a huge amount of people respond to the petition around schools funding that went through to a parliamentary debate. Just to say, that's me in the corner. I did go along and listen. It was fascinating to see where they are. My mum was so proud when I showed her that picture and showed that I was on Parliament TV. But I kind of look at it in the rounds that actually this is affecting children now. This is the bit that bothers me. Debates around politicians and all that aren't going to change anything. But actually, the impact on children is starting to hit in Peterborough now for the first time. And the pressures that you're all facing every day, pensions, pay awards, austerity, no inflation, incremental drift, teacher shortages, camping friends, they are context that is causing us challenges. And I've just written out to all the head teachers in the city and just asked some really basic questions around what does this mean for you on a daily basis. And these are what people are trying to do to be more efficient. A great list, but when you look at them, actually, they're probably all affecting children. It's great that you're more efficient, but they are affecting children. So, review of historic spending, training HLTAs, sharing a mower with another local story like that one. But actually, it's showing that we're trying really hard. But when you look at the daft things that we're having to do now, the one about we're cutting our cookery class, that's a shame. That's affecting children who would engage with things like that. The fact of having to use, we're not replacing staff when they're going. This is the reality of the funding situation we're in. And these are straight from the voices of head teachers in the city and the challenges that they face every day. And I also asked them around the SEND challenges. The fact you have to fund the first £6,000 of every EHCP. And lots of really concerning things there. But to me, the one that worried me, the third from bottom there, and I don't blame the head teacher that wrote this, but inevitably we have to start thinking hard about applying for EHCPs, which may result in students receiving the support, not receiving the support they need. So that challenge around £6,000, we can't afford that, that tells me there's something wrong with the system, and we need to work incredibly hard to make sure that our voice as Peterborough is heard, The reason I've collected this data is that we are going to write to the Secretary of State and just lay out, anecdotally, this is what current policy means for children in Peterborough. And I think that's horrific that head teachers considering that. Completely understand it, but actually now's the time to shout about it. So we will be coming to governors. Hopefully you'll be able to support us. We are going to make the noise around the challenges that we faced with schools funding, because it's going to be something. Right, I did go quick, didn't I? Just wanted to end really to say thank you. You may or may not be aware it's today. It's Volunteers Week. And could you be any greater volunteers when you're looking out here? And, we could always be on the coast, couldn't we? And you're sat in the room here. I just wanted to say thank you. There's over 250,000 governors nationally. We have over 900 governors in Peterborough who give up their time and commitment, as you are today, on a regular basis. You have to deal with all the things I've just described to you, all the challenges you face, the difficulties that we face. They're on your agenda, they're on mine as well. We share the pain, but actually every single day when you're in school, you're dealing with this going forward. So don't want to underestimate, what you're doing. It's a huge responsibility, hugely, rewarding as well. I know I've been a governor. It's a fantastic job, but it's really, really hard. So on behalf of everyone at Peterborough City Council, I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for coming along today. Thank you for your commitment to our children and young people. You're making a massive difference. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference today. But thank you, and on Volunteers Week, great to see you on a Saturday. Thank you very much.